Hi guys, this is Dr. Sangram Patil. Uh, in this video, I'm going to take you through chapter 5 of biology, that is a science book. So chapter 5 is about the fundamental unit of life, and we all know what is fundamental unit of life. It is the cell. So let's begin with a little bit of history. When Robert Hooke was, through his primitive microscope that was designed by himself, he was looking through the microscope at a cork. Cork is nothing but it's a layer of a bark of a pine tree. And when looking through a very thin slice of this cork, he found out these little pockets, these little boxes attached to each other. They were just put adjacent to each other, and then he started calling them as cell. Cell is a Latin word which means small room, a small space, and that's how a cell was named and discovered by accident. He didn't intend to discover the cell, he was just trying to see what it shows through the microscope, and then it was discovered by a chance. Later on in 1674, Leon Hick, this is another scientist, he actually looked through a bit better microscope and found out that these cells were part of every living organism, and he found out free living cells from pond water. So this was second part of this discovery, the prominent part of discovery. So that was Leeuwenhoek Hick in 1674. Then next came Robert Brown. He is the man, the credit goes to this man for discovering the nucleus inside the cell. The next is in 1839, a scientist called Purkinje. He's a very important name even in medicine. This person found out that the fluid material, the liquid material inside the cell is important for the structure and function of the cell, and he named it as protoplasm. And there was a next pair of biologists named Schleiden and Schwann. So these two biologists, they formulated a cell theory. Now what is cell theory? It's very simple. They proposed that plants and animals are composed of cells, and these cells are the basic structural and functional unit of life. So that's cell theory. Virchow was another scientist. In 1855, he expanded cell theory a little bit in more details, and he said that every cell comes into existence from a pre-existing cell. That means a cell gives rise to another cell. A cell is produced from another pre-existing cell. Now, these were the basic discoveries. But in 1940s, with the discovery of electron microscope by Vladimir Zorikin, this person discovered electron microscope, which was a major landmark in medicine and in science as well. So electron microscope showed the minute details of inside of the cell, including nucleus and different organelle. And this person, Vladimir Zorikin, is better known as co-inventor of television. So that's about briefly about how the discovery of cell was done by various people, how the study and the science of cell evolved from 17th century to the 21st century, from Robert Hooke till the development of electron microscope in 1940s. Now let's have a look at these microscopes. This is same type of microscope. It's called compound light microscope. It's named compound light microscope because it uses its own light. It's got a mirror at the base, at the bottom, which takes the natural light, either sunlight or the light present in the surrounding, which could be artificial, but it takes its own light, and then it reflects the light from the mirror onto the slide, and the slide is kept on the stage. The light passes through the slide through a condenser lens, and on the stage there is a slide, and to look at the slide there is a system of lenses called eyepiece lenses and objective lenses, and the person who uses these lenses can do coarse adjustment or fine adjustment using coarse knob or fine adjustment knob. And the lenses, the objective lens, can be changed by revolving the nose piece. So you can use different lenses to look at the slide. So that's about basic light, compound light microscope. Electron microscope is more complex. It almost occupies a size of a room. It's got a system of very advanced lenses which are magnetic lenses, and electron beam is used to project at the object we watch, and it gives very minute details of the cells or any structure we look at. Like, so you can see in this slide there is this virus being looked at, and minute details of the cells can be found and studied by using electron microscope. Now your book describes a little activity, and that's nothing but making a temporary mount of a peel from onion bulb. So if you take a piece of onion, a small layer of onion, and peel off the inside membrane of the concave part from that onion, that's called epidermis. Put that layer into the watch glass which has a water in it, so it doesn't dry up or it doesn't fold on itself. And then once this is ready, that onion peel can be sprayed on a glass slide, and put a drop of water on it and sprayed that peel evenly with a thin paintbrush, camel brush. And then once it is ready, put a drop of saffron in solution on it, and then cover it with a cover slip, and then that's ready for observation under microscope. So what do we see? We see the cells attached to, put adjacent to each other, and little nuclei can be seen as dots in the center of the cell. That's the basic structure of onion bulb. These cells are obviously, as you can see in the diagram, they look similar to each other. So the cells from the same structure of a plant or animal or organism, they look same. But the cells from different structures of the same organism or different organisms, they look different to each other because they have different functions to do. So your book also suggests you to do an activity where you prepare similar mounts from onion bulb, the tips of the roots of onion bulb, and also from a leaf, and they want you to compare these cells and see whether they are same or different, and in what way they look different. So you will realize if you happen to do this experiment in your school or at home if you have a microscope with you. So the cells from the same structure, as I have said, if it's the same structure, if you are looking at the cells of onion bulb, all the cells will look same, but onion bulb cells will be different from onion root cells, and they will be different from a cell from a leaf. So they are different, but the cells from all the cells from the onion bulb are same, exactly same, similar to each other. All the cells from the root are similar to each other. All the cells from leaf are similar to each other. So that should explain you that they have a similar function. The different parts of human or animal or plant body have got different types of cells because they have different functions, but the cells overall are similar in terms of certain things like the organelles they contain, the different functioning units inside the cell, the nucleus they have. So these are some similarities the cells will have, but overall, in different body parts, in different organisms, the cells will be different. So have a look at some examples of Some organisms will have only one cell, whereas other organisms will have more than one cell. The organisms with one cell are called as unicellular organisms. Look at the examples here. All the bacteria are unicellular, such as E. coli, Streptococcus or halobacteria, and there are thousands of different bacteria. All the protists have single cell, like amoeba is a well-known, Euglena and Paramecium. These are single cellular, unicellular organisms. And some algae, not all algae are unicellular, but some are, such as Chlorella, Chlamydomonas and Saccharomyces, that is yeast. So these are examples of unicellular organisms, whereas multicellular organisms are we, human, plants, different animals and fungi. Now have a look at these different cells from the same organism, that is human being. So you might have seen this picture, but have a look at it again carefully. You have muscle cells which are elongated with nucleus in them. You have blood cells, these are red blood corpuscles. Then you have smooth muscle cells which are again elongated but bit narrower than the skeletal muscle cells. You have other blood cells like platelets and white cells. You have nerve cells which are got a cell body and a long axon. You have fat cells, sperm cells, ovum, skin cells. So different cells have different functions, and accordingly they have a different structure. That's very clear from this diagram. All the different human cells have got different functions, and that's why they have different structures. Now have a look at the shapes and sizes of these cells. So size and shape of the cell will depend on its type and its function. So in unicellular organism like amoeba, they have a single cell. So every function is done by the organelles inside the amoeba cell, and amoeba tends to change the shape according to the need. So when it wants to eat something, it wants to digest something inside, and when it wants to excrete, to push the waste material outside, it changes its shape. Constant changing shape is the characteristic of organisms like amoeba. Whereas in other cells, the structure of the cell, the shape and size do not change like amoeba. And the examples are human cells and different animal cells, plant cells. Now each living organism does certain functions, and these functions are done in big animals, in multicellular organisms, animals and plants, by different parts. Different parts have got different cells, and they do specific functions for that organism, and the cell function is dependent on type of cell and the organelles inside the cell. Now the cells which are unicellular, everything is done inside one cell. The organisms which are multicellular, different functions are done by different cells. For example, in human beings, brain cells, they do a function of control, balance, thinking and other functions. We have lungs, heart, kidney, liver with completely different cells from each other, and they have very specific and different roles from each other. Example, heart cells, they are muscle cells and they contract. It's a cardiac muscle. Whereas intestinal tract, stomach and intestines, they have smooth muscles and they have secretory cells. They function to digest. The kidneys have nephrons. They work for filtration of the blood, and they remove the waste products in the form of urine. Liver has got hepatocyte cells. They work for producing different types of substances in the body, storage, also neutralizing the toxins, poisons. So they get rid of poisonous substances from the body. So these are different cell types doing different functions in human body. And inside every cell, different organelles are supposed to work for a specific function, such as in amoeba, there is the whole system of functioning inside the amoeba cell, and that is done by different organelles, and that is true for cells in every organism including human beings. So our cells have got the independent system of functioning. Every cell has got organelles and they work for functioning of that cell. So this whole system of organelles inside the cell, they form a cell, and that is the basic structural and functional unit of organism. So our cells are the basic structural and functional unit of our body. They are responsible for making us, and they are responsible for functioning of our body as well.